Let's go ahead and get started, Gary, and get into a little bit of this chat about cybersecurity, mentalist. But first, tell the audience a little bit about who you are. You got quite an interesting background and some very important credentials to understand.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Phil. Well, I graduated from MIT with a degree in electrical engineering, computer science. And I'm not as young as I look. I've been in the security field since graduation, I guess for 20 years at this point, or even more. And I've just had a number of different positions working with different government agencies, as well as with tech companies. I've been working as the Chief Information Security Officer for a very large organization. I've mentored cybersecurity startups and really just done a lot of different projects all around the world with cybersecurity.
How did you get involved with from your electrical engineering to cybersecurity? How did that connection occur?
Well, that was fortuitous. I simply one day went online. This was pretty early on in my career. I was in sort of general IT consulting, and I found a job description, and I really like breaking things. And this particular job description was about essentially breaking things. And so I applied for the job and got the job, and I guess the rest is history. I've just been doing it and loving it ever since.
And breaking things ever since. All right. So you tell us about this title. Is it a security mentalist?
That's right.
That is not a title I've heard before. I've never met a security mentalist. What's that title mean?
Sure. Well, I sure hope you haven't met anyone else with that title, because I made it up. And I think it's a really fun way of doing it. And the reason I came up with this is because I believe that humans are the weakest link when it comes to security programs. You can buy a firewall and those things work pretty well. But people are, they are going to do things that you simply don't expect. And oftentimes they have very poor security hygiene, which we can talk about in a moment. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to create something that would help people understand that what they're doing is just completely not secure, right? Because everyone says, oh, I'm so super secure, right? And what I wanted to do is I wanted to make it fun. So I actually created essentially a magic show that basically goes through a lot of things that people do that they think is okay, but then I show them that how they can be exploited. And I do that in a really fun way on stage, usually doing it for conferences and things like that. And so what you see right here is a magic kit. And what better way to show people, that what they see is not really real or not really what they think that it is, except through, and it's magic, right? And we're all used to seeing that sort of thing.
Oh gosh. While you're here, we got to do this with Phil. Can we do something with Phil on the show?
Yeah, well, yeah, let's do something. Let's do something. So before this call, and I know you haven't had time to check your email yet, I actually sent you an email, but don't open it. Don't open it, right?
Okay.
But you've got an email from me, Phil, which we'll get to in a moment. So don't open it yet. And what
I have the email. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try to influence you to think of a playing card. Okay, like ace through king, 4 suits, spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs. Okay, so you're familiar with playing cards?
Yes.
Okay,
excellent. I enjoy a good game of poker. Yep.
Oh, very good, very good. So we're going to be playing a game of poker here to an extent. It's going to be all in your mind, right? Because this wasn't set up ahead of time. You don't really know what I'm about to do. Is that right?
No, not at all.
Okay. What I'm going to have you do is I'm just going to have you to imagine that you're taking a walk outside. Just tell me, what do you see? Just imagine, just an imaginary scene. You're walking outside. What do you see?
I'm walking out in nature. It's let's call it like the Smoky Mountains. It's kind of hilly, but it's not, high peaks. I'm seeing wildlife, maybe a stream, lots of vibrant colors of nature with the sky and the green trees and, the rippling of the water through the stream, that type of thing.
Well, so you're thinking of nature, and believe it or not, you've just actually given me a ton of information. And what I'm actually going to ask you to think of is, I want you to imagine that you see a card deck, like a deck of cards, and you see it lying on the ground in the middle of a very thin stream. Okay, can you imagine that?
Yes.
You walk over to it and you bend over and you pick up that card box and you open it because you're curious, right? So I want you to visualize opening that card box, and you to your surprise, inside there's one card, just one card. And you pull it out, you see the back. It's a blue back card. You turn it around and you imagine the card. That card that you're looking at, I want you to visualize it. I want you to tell all of us, what card are you thinking of?
I'm thinking the ace of diamonds.
The ace of diamonds. Now,
Yeah.
Is there any particular reason that you were thinking of the ace of diamonds?
Not any particular reason that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, before this show, I emailed you. If you would just go ahead and take a look at your email.
All right. So opening my email. Here we go. Gary Chan. I predict you will choose is the title of the email. And it, oh my God, it is. I don't know if you can see that, Nick. It's the ace of diamonds. All right, Gary. I know you're not going to tell us how you did that, but that is I mean, I had all kinds of options to pick from. Fantastic. So
yeah. So that's the entertainment part, right? So it's to show people that, because everyone says, you know what, because you hear about, oh, someone calls you and they say, hey, I'm going to get you, I want you to buy me a gift card. And you say, oh, no one would fall for that scam. How could anyone fall for that scam?
Oh, no, that happened to us. That did happen to us. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, This is a fun way of showing that it can happen, right?
Yeah, very good. All right. Now, when we are done with the program, you must tell me how you did that. Got the ace of diamonds. I got my lawyer right here. We'll sign some confidentiality. We'll be signed up. All right. So actually, I gave you lots of information. We give unintended information all the time, right? And when you talk about go buy gift cards, that's a scenario that we actually had happen here at AIM, several years ago, before we started training our employees to be more aware of these types of activities, we had someone receive an email, hey, go buy me some gift cards. I'm in a meeting. It's really important. Scratch them off. Send me a picture of the numbers. And, the person got the email from me, they thought, and therefore off they went. And they purchased the gift cards, and we lost that money. Now, it wasn't significant, but it was honest enough mistake, right? The person was just really wanting to make sure I was looked after properly. So what are some of the tips and tricks that we should be aware of when we're thinking about cybersecurity?
Sure. Well, there are definitely a lot of things that can be done, but I think the first thing and most important is that if your company has a policy or training of specific things, be sure to follow that, because your company is going to know more the specific types of scams and things that come across your desk, right? So speaking generally, I would say for HR folks, make sure that you're really watching out on those emails. When someone sends you an email, make sure that you know who they are from. I know HR folks, especially recruiters, gets lots of emails from different folks that, it's the first time they're meeting, right? You don't know if they are you know if they are who they say they are. And sometimes they may send you their resume as a Word document, and then when you open it, it may say like, hey, macros, click here to enable them. Don't do that, because that could be malware that's in there. It might be a perfectly legitimate resume, but then it's taking over your computer if you allow that macro. So there's a ton of stuff, then we can talk more about different tips too, but those are just a couple of highlights.
So one of the hot topics for all employers today is, have remote employees versus employees working, in office or in the facility. And sometimes with these remote employees, we don't know where they're applying from. We really don't know the individual. We don't meet them in person. Maybe we Zoom them. Sometimes we don't. I know you have some experience with remote employees, North Korea. You got a little story there you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, so you can actually look this up on the internet because there was a big story about it just not too long ago, where essentially North Koreans in North Korea were applying for jobs as Americans. So they would just, as an example, just steal someone's identity, right? And then apply for jobs doing IT. And they would say, well, I'm a remote worker, and American companies would hire them to go do work. Now, whether or not they did the work, is not really relevant here. What it is that they impersonated somebody else to get a job.
Right.
And then they took that money that they paid, got paid as a salary, and that was used to fund the North Korean weapons program. Right. So you don't know sometimes who it is that you're hiring, especially when they're remote workers. And this is sort of thing was very prevalent. And the FBI helped to take down at least what they know of that sort of scam.
Yeah, and I think we do background checks, we do international background checks as well as part of that to help avoid that. But it's so easy to assume someone else's identity. We talked about Jimmy, someone that has used my social security number in the past and uses that name Jimmy with my social. And employers, it's tough. And Justin and I work with them all the time to make sure that they're doing all the right things to have their workforce be legit and be who they say they are and done legally. But it's easy to get over on an employer today with, false documentation, those types of things. Any tips or tricks that you can think of beyond a background check that might help an employer be more careful if they're hiring remotely?
Oh, absolutely. I would say the number one thing that I would do is make sure you see them in person, right? So if they aren't willing to fly in to come meet you, that's probably a pretty big sign of it maybe not working. It may not work. It may not be the right person, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's a really good tip, actually, in that sense. All right, Justin, when we think about any other HR watch-outs, I'm thinking about things like AI, video, voice. We're hearing and seeing lots of that. Anything that comes to mind that last couple of minutes here you'd like to share with the audience on watch-outs?
Sure. So there's definitely been a lot of deepfakes, and actually you even OpenAI has been all over news. I know that's a very popular one, along with ChatGPT and all that. You can get people who interview for jobs, and they've got their computer program listening to your questions, and then it goes into ChatGPT, and then that gives them the answer, and then it's just reading it off, right? So they're not even, they're just reading. But then you also have the deepfakes that you kind of mentioned, which is just on a video. And, there's this article that came out, maybe a month ago or so, where the quote unquote CFO of a company asked one of the employees to do a transfer, and they got on a Zoom call. Right. And the bad guy used a deep fake. And you can grab people's videos and their audio just off of Instagram, TikTok, whatever, any place. I mean, here, right? We can create a deep fake of you, Phil. And then
maybe you could create a better version. I mean, that might be even a good thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah, and so you could do that, and you could get somebody easily, right, to send those gift cards or whatever it is. And in that particular case, their employee transferred $25 million based on that Zoom call.
Oh yeah, I did read that article. I think that was in the Wall Street. That's a significant deep fake. All right, well that puts us right up against the 8 o'clock hour here. Gary, thank you so much. I have so many more questions I'd love to ask you. Maybe we can have you back someday.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please share it with your colleagues. Forward our invites. Share the link aimea.org/thisweekatwork, or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment, like LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere you are. And you can be part of the show. Send your questions and comments anytime to info@thisweek.work. We'll see you next week, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, when we discuss what's happening this week at work.